Yeah,
And
it's it's definitely weird, and it's like with him, I think it was the first time we had him on, because we had him on twice. And it was interesting because we actually had him on episode 6 of Night Stalkers. Go figure, the 6th episode was for Satanists to join us. And it's more so not like he was a nice guy to talk to, but just the way he tried to manipulate things. For example, the Bible, the way he tried to manipulate the Bible and prove that it was all false documentation and that it was lies. He tried to say that the word Bible has the word lie in it, which of course, you'd have to jumble all the letters around and get rid of a couple letters, and then you have I. So it's like, I don't know what this dude's talking about. But then he told us that he used to not only did he establish the Church of Satan, but he also would baptize people into Satanism.
Wow. And
that would consider sometimes blood rituals and a number of different things. And so, I think it was just kind of that creep factor, like, here's this guy on our show. And at the time, neither of us were Christians. So we're like, okay, we're just going to let it go, blah, blah, blah.
Well, one thing I have to say about those rituals, and it was one of the creepiest things that he had said to us, was those rituals were almost orgasmic.
Yes.
Really? Wow. That's so wrong, but okay. Anyways.
But and like Justin said, we had him on a second time, and he was no longer a Satanist, but instead, I don't know what he was, I guess, but he was supposedly Christian again. And still what he would speak about and talk to us about was a little sketchy. It just didn't seem right. And he claims that the reason he became saved again, or turned back, because I don't know if he was really saved per se. In fact, I can tell you he wasn't, based on his current whereabouts. But he claimed that somebody, quote unquote, somebody was possessed, and he witnessed it, and it scared him. But of course, as the conversation went on, me and Justin began to piece things together and realize it was probably him that was actually possessed, and it scared him. But as Justin said, you look back at it now, it's much like New Orleans voodoo with him. He still very obviously works in the occult and practices occult type things, such as mediumship and different spells and whatnot. And that's what's interesting, is he casts spells on Christians.
Really?
In a way to like bring about love and prosperity and stuff like that. But he calls it a Christian work, and that it's okay. And it's like, no, you say that there's that right there is, in a sense, false prophecy. Like that's not right. So he's definitely one of the creepiest. I agree with Justin. He's probably one of the creepiest that we had on.
I would say the
creepiest. Yeah, he was the.
Sounds like
had a couple weirdos, but but then as for me, like in regards to investigations, I'm probably right there with Justin again, because really nothing in our investigations that we've done was nowhere near as creepy or frightening as just the demonic attacks that I witnessed prior to becoming saved. But I think the thing about Jeffrey Dahmer's house, for me, wasn't like catching anything, although I've caught audio there and I saw like orbs there with my own eyes, which was really interesting. But I think what was creepy was just the atmosphere, the idea, knowing like, oh, I'm sitting in this little cubby under the house where Jeffrey Dahmer chopped up Stephen Hicks and separated his bones and flesh, and then walking out into the backyard and realizing, okay, those bones and flesh of Stephen Hicks are scattered all over the ground here, buried. And like there was this one time where we were walking around, it was probably like around 2 a.m. Justin and I were walking around the back with our crew, and I came around a corner of a tree, and I stopped because I noticed something sticking out of the tree, and it was a nail about eye height. And one of the interesting things about that is when Jeffrey Dahmer was a kid, he used to pin up squirrels and frogs and things like that. He used to nail them to the trees and torture them. And so it was just the thought of it, like this nail actually could be from him when you consider the time span from when he was a little kid to however many years later when we were there. The tree would have grown, and so the nail would have grown with it. So it was right at the right height. And I think that's what it was for me, is just that atmosphere, knowing, dude, the serial killer, we're at his house where he did these things. It's like, oh, it's creepy.
Right.
Well, I think you actually almost ran into the nail, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, wow.
It almost caught my eye. It was like, luckily I saw it. It's like, oh my goodness.
Well, thankfully you caught it, because you would have had shots. That's not good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would be getting him tetanus for sure.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I joked around with Justin a little bit about being the Rabbit Trail twins on the your guys' shows for obvious reasons. But that leads to my next question. Obviously, you guys have a lot of fun doing your shows. How do you guys come up with different topics to talk on, and what's your study techniques to get going?
Mm-hmm. You mind if I take this one first, Justin?
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So, Justin and I will often we just message each other a lot. We don't get the chance to get on the phone and talk too often, unless we're on the radio for the setup for the radio show. But usually we'll just message each other and just say, hey, I have an idea for an upcoming show, and I'll throw out a name and have him do some research. Or he'll say, hey, what about this book and this author? What do you think? And I'll look at it, and we'll just kind of decide off from there, what we want to do. Sometimes we'll have segments where like several episodes in a row will be all about aliens, or another episode will be all about hauntings and paranormal investigations. And so we try to set it up like that from time to time, and we really just do our research. It's a lot of being online, looking up, the word paranormal investigation, and seeing what kind of books are out there, what kind of videos, what kind of people are talking. And if we find something really interesting, we say, hey, this looks like someone that we might want to have on and ask a few more questions about. And sometimes it's just something that's just random and interesting to us. We talk about werewolves all the time. So, Linda Godfrey, she's one of our favorite guests to have on. We're going to have her on again. I think we've had her on several times now. And she's real big into the cryptozoology type stuff. So, that's something that we really do is we just toss ideas back and forth. Sometimes we'll just scrap it. He'll send me something like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, no, I don't like it, Yeah. And that's it. We get rid of it, and vice versa. And then as for the actual research part of the show, there's nothing really set in stone, I think, for either of us. Sometimes it's just a little bit of research day after day. Usually it's a week up leading, depending on how far in advance we have the show ready and set, or the guest. We'll flip through the books. It's rare that we actually read an entire book from a guest, but we'll usually go through, get good solid points from the book, and then try to draw questions from it. And the one thing that we like to do is come up with our own questions. Many publishers will send us a book for an author, and in the book will be a folded up piece of paper with sample questions that we can ask. It's the questions that are usually asked to these authors. And we usually
author is ready for.
Yeah, or the author is ready for. And me and Justin, we don't really like that. We like putting them on the spot a bit, and we find it a little more fun and testing them, teasing them a bit. And I think they like it too, honestly, because there's many times where we'll have a guest on, and you probably know, Jim, every once in a while a guest will be like, I've never been asked that question before. That's a really good question. And that's the kind of thing that we really want to strive for, to create questions and just an atmosphere for our guest that's new and unique, and something that our audience will be like, hey, I've never heard anything like this. Let's go ahead and listen some more and see what else they come up with. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, that's in a nutshell what we're doing. I mean, there will be times that I'm just scheduling some people unless I feel that there's a conflict as far as from Erik's standpoint, if it's going down the road of conflicting with a Christian view, or he's just like, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that, then I'll be like, okay, that's fine. Move on to the next one, no big deal. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people that have co-hosts try to do. I don't know too many that have co-hosts, but there are some that will just wing it. One will be trying to run the show while the other is just, holding on for dear life. Right. But I think that's where Erik and I differ, is we do work together to do our show. He had been going to school, so for a little while I was carrying most of the load because, believe it or not, I do believe in the little bugger, and I know that he's just going to do the greatest.
Aww.
But for that point, I mean, when we first started Paratruth Radio, I think he was only in the beginnings of getting out to school. But it eventually got to the point where he needed some time off and whatever, and I just kept with it. And, that's what you got to do. I mean, not only if you have a co-host, if you have a show in general, you just have to, I mean, the show must go on. There are certain circumstances where if you don't have a show ready, you're deathly ill, somebody passes away, then obviously I'm sure your listeners will completely understand that you didn't have a show that week. But you have to stay consistent. You have to make sure that you're doing your show to the best of your ability, and that the sound quality is great. Which, one thing that I do have to speak for your show, Jim, is your sound quality has been very good from the very beginning. You're keeping it consistent there, so I'm very happy with the show from there.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to be trying to work on my schedule a little bit more. I had to drop a few things, but I'm going to be trying to set a time to do what I need to do for this show. But actually, ironically, how I found you guys were through iHeartRadio. And I started listening to like part of a segment, and next thing I know, I was studying the Nephilim at the time. And then I actually came across the episode that you guys did, and I just thought it was really fascinating. And then I know, Justin, you mentioned L.A. Marzulli. He just popped in my mind just now. You guys remember talking to him at all? And what do you guys think of him?
L.A. is a very good guest. My views differ from his, but he's one of those people that, that's okay. In the long run, it's all semantics. We both kind of believe the same thing, but it's really different. So I think he's a great guest to have on. And I want to say that he's really intelligent. I mean, he does a lot of research, and I've watched the only watchers I've seen is the one he sent to us with his book, The Days of Chaos, and I loved it. It's a great documentary, so I definitely recommend them. What about you, Erik?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't really have much more to add to it. I agree with Justin. I think I really do disagree with a lot of what he believes, I think, in regards to some of the Nephilim conspiracies and things like that as well. But he's still a really good guest to talk to. It's intriguing, it's interesting, and I think he really pushes the subject. It gets you to think, and I think that's important. So even for someone like me who doesn't necessarily agree with everything, though there are some things I agree with him on, I think it's nice to have him on. I know Justin and I have talked about having him on again, and yeah, I just think guests like him are controversial.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have to be, and they should be, and I think they should be. I think it's a good thing, and it definitely brings in the audience when you jump into the controversy type thing. But, other than that, I can't say anything about his character. He's just got a good character. He's relaxed, he's easygoing, he's fun to talk to, and, it's kind of like a no care in the world type thing. He's up and willing to talk to everybody, and you really got to respect that. So.
Yeah, I've been waiting on an email from him to see if he could be a guest on my podcast. But okay, I'm gonna kind of single out Erik real quick on your.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. I've been following you guys for a while now, and whole 9 yards. I know that Erik's been doing his movies and all that. Have you finished a lot of? There's one that you were about ready to wrap up, and forgot what it was called, but I really want to see it. Have you finished that one up, and any other projects?
Yeah. So The Revealed I'm sure is the one you're talking about. Yeah. That one is completed. It's been wrapped up. It's edited. It's done. It's ready to go. What I'm doing, the only reason it hasn't been released yet, and why no one else has seen it, is because I'm currently on the film festival circuit in the country. So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to hear back from the Cleveland Film Festival as well as the Nashville Film Festival.
Nice.
And the thing is, I have to I have to keep the film under wraps, because if I were to distribute it online and let people see it, I would immediately be disqualified from any and all festivals around the world. So that's why it's taking so long. And it's been a long time. A lot of people who tune into the show want to see the film.